in one failures. This is one of the requests that came up on Friday, and I told you I'd get a little video out, so here you go. So 4-in-1 failures. And what I've done here is I've set out basically by the 4-in-1 chart, you know, like here, something like this. These are not all from one section. But hopefully we can take a look at it. So in the top left, up here, what I've done is I've taken, I think this is 3.23 on your homework, and you can see that this residual, everything looks good here. The residual versus the predicted, everything's fine. However, here, what we see is instead of it following the line, you get these outliers. So up towards the high end of the residuals, you're going to get high outliers. In fact, what we would expect that these numbers should be here, somewhere around here and here. That's where these points should move over towards. So that tells us there's some outliers. The other way that really this is useful is when we look at kurtosis, which I've put down here. So basically, this is negative kurtosis where things are really flat. It's not following normality. And what we see is we'll see a dot pattern that looks like this. It kind of goes above, comes down, and then goes back above. And that's why it's a test of normality. It's really hard to see down here with the bottom left. You can see it if it jumps out at you, but that's it. The other one is the positive kurtosis, which would look the flip side. You start off low, and then it starts around 0. It peaks up like this, and then comes back down. So this allows us to see if we have a nice normal distribution or if the slope's kind of weird. All right, the second one, versus fits. So here we're looking at something that looks about like this when we look at the first three, but then take a look at the variance on the final one. So this is something where the fitted value, when it gets large, like here it's 0.12, whatever, the variance goes up substantially. Now on the bottom left, the normality, the histogram is usually what we're looking at. This is good for skewness. And what I've done is that I put an example of one that looks skewed here, where you can see that many of the items are here towards 0 with less items up here. And this is a nice, definition of our skewness. And then finally, versus order. I mean, this thing, you look at it and there's a trend. Like, you could make a case that a real trend is happening. Whereas, if it's just kind of like this, then that's not a trend. Hopefully we'll be able to get through our material before the end of the semester, and we could go over some of the more specific rules of how to identify if these are trends. There's things that are a little bit more specific that we haven't got in mind till the end of the semester, and we'll jump into the assumptions we make, the types of issues in the 4-in-1 charts that might cause problems. And just a quick note, a quick reminder that if we have big outliers, we can look at those and maybe it was a bad sample, maybe something failed, who's to say? Maybe it's good data, but it gives us a chance to look at it. And secondly, if it doesn't follow normality, that may not be bad as long as ANOVA is fairly resistant to normality issues, as long as we have good sample size. So this is something we really pay attention to when our sample sizes are low. Any more questions? We'll catch you next week.